Good afternoon, all. There might be some network issue. So, expert has already confirmed that he's going to join very soon. So, we are waiting for the expert. We are going to start our session very soon. So, be with us. So, Dhaval sir, expert is arrived now. So, welcome, Dhaval sir. Can you please check the mic for?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
yeah, yeah, audible, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to start with the sessions. Before that, I would like to introduce Dhaval sir. Engineer Dhaval Shah sir is a director of Omnisense Technology Private Limited. He is a master in EC with more than 10 years of experience in embedded systems and embedded system development. He is having more than 2 years of leading product software development experience at Distribution Automation India Development Center, ABB, GISL, India. He's having experience in software development on different platforms like 86, ARM9, ARM Cortex, Excel, Xscale, MIPS, and PowerPC processor microcontroller architectures. He's having expertise in device driver development. He has already successfully developed device drivers for USB, NAND press, UART, SPI, I2C, EEPROM, etc. He's having experience in hardware virtualization, platform design, and software development. He has successfully developed USB Arduino driver on MIPS platform using open verification platforms. He's also having a good understanding of Linux driver architectures and also developing OS and hardware independent software architecture. So I, Professor Ghanshyam Rathod, welcome you behalf of BVM Engineering College and behalf of EC Engineering Department. Welcome you, sir, on this FTP. You can start your session, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Professor Ghanshyam, sir, for excellent introduction. Good afternoon, all. And so my topic for today's seminar presentation is about optimization for the power for wearable devices. So I will start my presentation from here. So are you able to see my screen, the presentation now?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. So power optimization for wearable devices is if you see the present scenario in the electronics embedded systems and specifically wearable devices. So the power optimization is one of the core area of interest for the research and in the development of processors, software techniques, and many more. Because in case of wearable devices, which are normally portable, so normally it is weared on a human body. So I will say mostly more than 90 or 100% of the devices which are used for wearable, which are wearable devices are basically battery powered. So when it comes to battery powered, means it has a limited power supply till the battery is available. And to maximize the use of the device so that you can have a longer battery life of the device, the power optimization is one of the core thing or one of the most important criteria we have to consider when we are designing any wearable devices for any applications. So I have considered that's a basic picture, means the type of wearable devices. This is just a small screenshot, but there are now, after COVID pandemic and many things, and the development of smartwatch and the fitness freak and all. So now we have a lot many number of devices available in market under development, and also many devices have gone through many generations. Let's say if you consider the Apple smartwatch or any other devices, there have been many improvements in its product. So now it's a proven products available in the market, and the number of applications, the things you can do using smart wearable devices is really opening up new avenues for the applications and how you can use it for your health or for improving your productivity at work and many more. So as you can see here in screen as well, so most of the product which are shown in this screen are all battery powered. There is no product in this photo which is having an external power supply connected to it. All are battery powered. And each battery is, as you can see, depending on the application of the product, the form factor of the product is also different. If you consider smart glass, smartwatch, wristband, or a ring or something, so all these devices, the another aspect here we have to consider is that the form factor of device is also very small. So you cannot have, even if it's a battery powered product, but we cannot have our battery size exceeding certain limit, because it has to be portable, it has to fit into the form factor of the product whichever we are designing or we are planning to make. So there is again this is the challenge where we have to look into the power optimization of the wearable devices. So the core thing we have to consider whenever we are designing or we are trying to do a power optimization for any device, any wearable device or a portable device, then we have to consider the architecture of the product, how we will achieve the power optimization. So whenever we are designing a product, for example, let's say we consider a smart watch or something, at least we will consider that, okay, the product should work for at least 24 to 48 hours. So if your person or user has to be able to use the product for at least 48 hours, so the battery should last for that particular period of time. And taking into account the limited size, the application for which we are developing the product, the core thing which comes to challenge is that, okay, we have to consider the architecture of the product, that how we will design this product, what part of the functionality will be part of the product, what part of the functionality we can move it to, let's say, cloud or some other processing part, let's say some other stationary product which is powered somewhere in the house or somewhere else, which is actually doing the processing, while the handheld product or the wearable product is mainly doing just a kind of taking this data, collecting the data. That is like most of the products, 90% wearable products are mainly sensor based products. So they basically sense, let's say, your blood pressure or your temperature, body temperature, or your oxygen saturation, or many things, or your heart rate. So everything basically, it's the main core of the wearable product is its sensor. The product, so it senses, it takes some data, then it is processed, some output is generated, and that output is presented to the user either on the device or maybe on his smartphone or somewhere else on a cloud. So what goal we want to achieve out of this our product and its application, we have to look into the architecture of the product. So as everybody knows that now cloud computing is a very proven concept, and it is already in fact being used for wearable devices. But where it helps in power optimization is that we can do the data collection at the device level, and that data can be communicated over a certain communication protocol. I will share that one in next slides. So this data will be transmitted over the cloud, and then the main computational intensive part of the computation can be done over the cloud, and the data can be presented back to the user either on the smartphone or somewhere on some portal. So one of the things which we have to consider when we are going for power optimization and the longer battery life, we can move the compute intensive part of the product or our application to the cloud. So bare minimum amount of work is required to be done on the device, on the human body, which is there is a wearable device. Then next thing we have to consider is communication protocol, which will be used for this device. So as I said, in an architecture, we can consider moving the major part of the computation to cloud. So when we are moving to cloud, then we need some communication mechanism between this wearable device and the cloud, how we will communicate this data to the cloud. So there are many communication protocols available, but we have to select the right communication protocol which meets our end use application which we are developing this product, a wearable device, and the amount of data which is we want it to be communicated, and the power budget we have to do the communication. So we have a wide range of communication protocols, but we have to select the right one which meets our requirement. Now coming to our wearable device. So first of all, I talked about the application for which we are designing the product. So moving part of the design means the application part, compute intensive part to the cloud, and then we communicated that data to the cloud. Now coming to the device, wearable device itself. So basically, if you see any wearable device, it is basically, we can drill down it to the part of it's an embedded system product. Basically, it has everything on it. So it has a battery, it has a processor, and a display if required, or some indicating lights and everything. So everything we can consider this wearable device as an embedded system itself. And normally, if we see the embedded system or a wearable device, whatever it is, maybe a wristband or a smartwatch or anything, so we can list down the features of the product. So what amount of work or functionality it has to be provided. So if it's a smartwatch, sorry, for example, if we consider smartwatch, then it needs to communicate with the mobile phone, and it takes the human data like your heart rate and everything. So these data are sensed. So we can drill down to the functionality of the smartwatch, and once we have listed down the functionality we want to achieve, then we can figure out, okay, what are the hardware and software components which will be required to this for this functionality. And as it's an embedded system product, then we can consider the hardware, software, and any other peripherals which are required to a bare minimum level, which are really required to achieve the functionality. So we do not need any specific processor like Intel or anything. We can go to an application specific processor. So as everybody knows now that we now have a wide range of SoCs and other products available. So the kind of application or wearable device we are designing based on that application and the specific application which it does, we can select the right set of hardwares which are required for specific to that functionality. We do not need any extra peripherals or any extra hardware circuitry or any extra sensors. So we can limit whatever hardware and software which is required for that particular product and its functionality. Now, once we have done that, okay, what is the hardware and software and which is required, So now let's look into the how we can optimize it. Okay, optimize the power performance. Now, in order to optimize the power performance, we need to understand, okay, what is actually consuming the power for a wearable device. So we can basically list down the basically 4 parameters which affects the power consumption in any embedded system product or wearable device. So basically the application of the product, so for which we are designing it. So it will be again specific to specific wearable device. So for how many data it needs to collect, what is the period of application needs to be in active state to sample the data and all. So that will be specific to the application, that will govern its power consumption. Second thing is the frequency. So frequency of the processor. So the operating frequency of the processor. I will go to the next slide. So I will explain each one in a separate slides. So first, well, let's go to the application part. So if you consider, I am giving you an example. Let's say, so if you consider a basic media player, and if we compare it with the smartphone, so the purpose of basic media player is to play the music. So it can be a person maybe may want to listen to the songs for, let's say, an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. So the functionality which is required, the application of the media player is to play the song on a continuous basis, depending on the, let's say, bit rate and selection by the user. So it basically draws the battery and plays the songs, and the user can enjoy the music. On the other hand, if we consider the smartphone or some device, the main purpose of smartphone device is to, whenever a phone call comes, then normally it is in idle state, but whenever there is a phone call, then it rings, and for that particular moment of time it is in active state. So let's say for the time the conversation is in progress, that particular period of time the device is in active use, while let's say once it is placed, the call is over, then normally it again backfills to its idle state. And as you can see, there is a wide contrast in the application of smartphone and the media player. While in case of media player, which is required to continuously play the music, while in case of smartphone, which requires to just as a critical part of its operation, its functionality, we need to answer the call. So smartphone is normally active for a certain period of time, while rest of the time it is in idle state. And both this application has a very different requirement from the power budget point of view, the battery requirement point of view, depending its application use. Now frequency. So every semiconductor processor works on a sequential logic, and every processor has some operating frequency, as you might be know. And whenever we go from low frequency to higher frequency, basically what it increases the power consumption. But what is the reason behind increasing power consumption? Because as you can see in this screen, it's very simple, that the frequency basically consists of high and low state, and every change in state requires charging, discharging of the capacitors and the leakage current and all, and it consumes power. So as we increase the frequency, the power consumption increases. So depending on your semiconductor which you have we are considering, we have to consider that, okay, at what frequency we are operating this part, and that will consume the power. Similarly, similar to frequency, the voltage plays a critical role. So the voltage of the circuit, the voltage of the semiconductor processor which is there, we are considering, it consumes the power. So it's very simple, it is V into I, so that is the power consumption. And third is the process technology. So as we go from as you might be knowing that there is a very good progress in the fabrication of the and manufacturing of the ICs. So we are moving from let's say in present 28 nanometer to somewhere right now at 4 nanometer. So as we decrease the size of the die and the you go for advanced technology, it reduces the power which is used to operate the semiconductor. So all these things governs the power consumption. So I will recap. So basically application, frequency, voltage, and the process technology. These are the basic components which actually consumes the power in any embedded system or wearable devices. Now, in order to optimize and go forward for the optimization of the power of the system, first we have to measure the power consumption, and then we have to look into the avenues where we can do the improvement and do the optimization. So the power consumption we can broadly classify into static power consumption, that is the bare minimum power which is consumed by the device, the processor and the peripherals and the related circuits which consumes the power whether the product is functioning or is in idle state. So that is the static power consumption of the product. And second part is the dynamic power consumption. So dynamic power is the power consumed by the device when it is in active state or it is doing some active functionality. Let's say, for example, we are operating our smartwatch and looking at the data or anything, or we are trying to receive a call or a notification. So these are the, during that particular point of time, the device is in active state, and depending on the operation to be performed, it will consume the power. So that is the dynamic power consumption. So we can measure this power consumed by the device, and there are many different techniques for that. There can be a basic very simple thing like measuring the power consumed using ampere meter or that kind of circuits, or we can go for some advanced techniques like many companies now provides the power measurement ICs, and also it has the SoCs have built-in functionality which provides you the power consumed by that particular system or subsystem. So we can measure the, okay, let's say DSP core, how much power it is being getting consumed when it is in operating state. Similarly, DSP peripheral, what it is consuming, or the processor or a memory. So we can measure the power consumed by individual devices or peripherals within an IC. And that will give us an idea that, okay, this is, but if I'm going to use this particular IC or this particular SoC or this kind of design, how much power it will consume. And let's say we are having a limited size of battery associated with it, then we can figure out, okay, how much battery it will, how long this battery will last, and when we are using, when I'm going for this kind of hardware, and this is the application scenario. So now, how we can, once we have measured the power consumption, we measured static power consumption, we measured dynamic power consumption when the IC is in use. So once we have developed and we are using it, so we can measure, we have already measured, okay, what is the static power consumption, what is dynamic power consumption. And once this measurement is our benchmark for optimization. So under normal condition in a present state, this is what the design or the IC which I am considering is going to consume the power. And then we can look into the optimization. What are the areas where we can do the optimization through which we can increase the battery life. So one of the important criteria which we have to consider is the multi-core design. So as we know that as we increase the frequency, so let's say we have requirement of certain compute intensive tasks to be performed, then we have two ways to approach. We can have a single processor running at a faster speed, or we can divide that particular task among multiple cores and we can achieve the same task. So if we can divide this particular application requirement from single processor to multi-processor design, then the operating frequency, we can have multiple cores running at a lower frequency compared to the single core core processor, and we can achieve the power optimization. And when the processing power compute power requirement is less, then we can turn off that particular part of the circuit or the cores, and we can achieve power optimization. So one of the core important part is to consider is, in case of hardware based optimization, is considering a multi-core design or multi-processor design. Now, what next we can do is, once we let's coming to the SoC or whatever the chip we are going to use for our application. Then, as everybody knows that now in case of SoC has a multiple peripherals with that particular processor. So we have ADC, we have signal DSP, we have memory subsystems, we have peripherals, IOs and all. So as you can see in the screens, which I have taken a snapshot. So all most major leading SoCs have that feature to either enable or disable the peripheral device. So for a specific application for which we are designing this product, if we are not needing any specific peripherals, or let's consider the other way, we should enable the devices which are really required in our application. First of all, we should select the SoC which with the required peripherals only, and avoid the advanced SoC or complex SoCs which has many features but we do not need. So first of all, avoid those SoCs, select the SoC which meets our requirement, basic requirement. And the next part in the optimization, what we can do is we can disable the devices, peripherals which are really not required in our application, or selectively enable them when they are required. And that can be done through power gating. So it is basically a functionality of the chip which through which we can enable or disable the peripheral through power gating. Similar to power gating, many chips have clock gating functionality. Like you can disable the clock for that particular peripheral. And similar to power gating, we can do the clock gating, and we can disable the devices which are not required, and we can reduce the power consumption of the chip. So here I have taken an example of how we can achieve this kind of we can use this technique and improve the we can have a power optimization. So here on the left side, so let's consider an example that I am having a wearable camera, and it transmits this video footage from my camera to the computer. So basically, the important part or the required computational functionality is we have to convert this raw image or the video feed into the encode. We have to encode it in a, let's say, in a motion JPEG. Then the most critical element of this particular encoding process is we have to do the FIR. And as you can see in the leftmost bar, this is the computational power or power consumption which is measured when we are doing we are using this particular SoC for encoding in a normal way. And next to that, what we have is, let's say for example, if we are not doing anything with this IC, and what is the optimal or the basic power consumed. So this is the regular power consumed by the SoC, and this is the bare minimum power which is consumed by the SoC even if we are not doing anything. And how we can approach to optimize this is we have to divide this kind of device functionality into parts, and we can see, okay, what is the time required to encoding of the device, of the video stream, and then which is after that it is encoded, it is stored, and then it is transferred. Let's say we are using a communication, let's say Wi-Fi, or let's consider we are using Wi-Fi to transmit this video feed to the computer. So that is the communication part. So once video is received, it is encoded, and then it is transmitted. So if we divide this part into that, then the encoding part requires 50 to 60% of the processor. And then in that case, we will be using DSP, for example. And once, let's say, encoding is done, then DSP is idle. We are not doing anything with the DSP. And then we are transmitting this compressed image over a communication protocol, over a communication media, let's say Wi-Fi, and that is to computer. So the period of time when we are not doing encoding and we are just doing communicating the this data over to the computer, during that particular period of time, we can switch off our DSP, and that is what it is shown over here. So if you can see here, this is the baseline, this is the basic uh, power required to perform the operation. Then we are using clock gating technique to turn off the devices which are not really required in our operation, and we are also turning off the other communication medias which are really not active during the encoding process. Similar to that, we are using gating, and here the one more level of optimization which we can do is, let's say we are using this data and storing it into a DDR-RAM, and for a certain period of time, if we are not using this DDR-RAM for storing the data, then we can turn off that DDR-RAM as well, or that particular segment of memory. So that will give us one more level of power reduction, and putting the device to idle state. So once there is the required operation has been completed, we can put our processor and device to idle state, and we can put it in a wait state or idle state depending on the IC functionality. And further to that, if we put these two comparison is, once our IC is put into wait state, and the another bar shows if the device is put into stop state, but there is not much power consumption reduction in these two states. So basically, if you can see here, that by using clock gating and other gating techniques and turning off the peripherals which are not required, we can reduce the power consumption of the device from this level. Roughly, we can achieve about 50 to 60% power reduction using turning off the devices which are not required. Then we move on to the software-based power optimization part. So in case of software, normally the program runs on a processor and it uses the data, it does the computation. So in most cases, the one of the most common part, and also the most power consuming part of the device is its RAM, DDR-RAM. So DDR-RAM consumes about 50 to 60% of the power in an embedded device, and that is why we have considered a case of DDR-RAM in this one as a first step. So I have shown a basic architecture of the DDR-RAM over here. So if you see, there are data bus, and then you have chip select and all. So through which we access the memory, and then we enable the row, we enable the column, and we do other command. We pass other commands to access the data from the RAM. So the optimization, how we can achieve in DDR-RAM lies into the understanding of the operation of the DDR-RAM and how we are fetching the data from the RAM. So let's say how we can achieve the optimization in case of DDR-RAM is that we can, if we are having a data, the set of data which we are operating. So one of the optimization how we can achieve is to having it addressed in such a way that they are lying in the same memory bank. So instead of our data lying in a different memory bank, so our software will have to, processor will have to fetch the data from different memory banks and then do the processing, which will consume power, because it will have to access each and every memory bank, fetch the data, then process the data, then again write back the data to the RAM. And in order to have a better optimization, we can do the design of our code in a such a way that our data is stored in a specific bank. That is one level of achievement we can do. And the second level of improvement how we can do is that when we access the data from the RAM, when the processor accesses the data from the RAM, normally it is done in bursts. So either 4 words or 8 words. Normally 8 words is common. So when we have saved our data in the RAM, then we have to pack it or design it in our architecture or the data structure which we are designing for our application in a such a way that they are not very sparse, or we can consider it that they are all in a 64 bytes size. So if we design our data in a such a size, then we can optimize our read and write operations from the RAM. And this can be achieved very easily using our software data structures we are using, and that is integer or whatever size is in the structures we are defining in a software code. So using that, we can pack our data in a 64 byte size orders so that it can be easily read and written from the RAM, which will reduce the number of read write cycle from the RAM, and it will optimize the power. So the number of read writes required for achieving the specific operation or the computation can be reduced. Another level of optimization which can be achieved in case of DDR-RAM using software techniques is that if we are having our data stored in a certain bank, let's say here chip select 0 and chip select 1 is there. So in our application, if we find out that okay, the amount of RAM which we really need for this particular computation can be achieved in a, let's say, bank number using only one bank, then we can disable or turn off the other bank which is really we are not using right now. So that is the level of optimization can be achieved. Another level of optimization which we can achieve in DDR-RAM is we can turn off the DDR-RAM totally. We can totally turn off the DDR-RAM by storing our data in the internal RAM like SRAM or in a non-volatile memory. So whatever data the device is working on or it is storing, that particular data can be backed up somewhere, and when the device is in idle state, then the RAM can be turned off, and that way we can further reduce the power consumption of the device. And going further, as I said, we are developing the embedded system device, so it does a specific functionality. So by looking at our architecture and design of the product, and if we can achieve we should target to avoid the DDR-RAM totally from our design. So if we can achieve the functionality with a minimum peripherals and the hardwares which are available in SoC itself, and if we can avoid the DDR-RAM, then we can get a further reduction in power consumption. So what other options we are having is that apart from DDR-RAM, we can go for SRAM, or let's say we are having an SRAM in our design, we are not having a DDR-RAM. So in case of SRAM, how we can optimize the power consumption is, again, we can pack our data in a 64 bytes or 4 bytes in a write order, so that the number of reads and write which are required from the SRAM can be reduced. And similar to DDR-RAM, if we are having more than one SRAM banks in our design, then we can turn off the SRAM which is we are not using in our application, and we can turn it on whenever required by our application. So whenever in a active mode, when device is doing some active computation and we need more memory, we can turn on that particular part of memory, we can do the computation again, and again turn it off. So our code is designed in such a way that it is optimally using the RAM, and most of the data which is really required is kept in one memory bank, and the second memory bank is only used when it is in an active state or in a for a particular period of time, and the rest of the time we can turn it off and we can optimize the power consumption of the device. Then the next level of optimization in software, how we can achieve, is doing the code size optimization. So we can, there are many options available, software techniques are available, so through which we can optimize the code size. This will mainly depend on the application which we are developing for this any specific variable device. So to achieve a specific task, let's say for example, as I taken an example of the variable camera. So basically its functionality is to capture the image, compress the image and transmit the image, and that particular functionality can be achieved through different software techniques. We can do the select the specific software technique which achieves this particular functionality which is required in a most optimal way. So that one thing is that which we can have an aside code size optimization. Second code size optimization we can achieve is by using the peripherals which are available. So as I said, the we are in case of SOCs, it is having multiple subsystems. So we have processor, we have DSP, we have another DMA and all. So what we can do is that when we are optimizing our application for a specific use, then we can will say effectively utilize the peripherals which are available. Let's say if we are having a DSP, then we can, or the MAC unit and or multiply unit, then what we can do is we design into our software in a such a way that it uses the maximum available hardware like DSP and MAC and all, so that we are not doing much more computation on a processor itself, but instead we are doing this particular computation using a dedicated hardware which is available, which does it in a more efficient way. So this is the way we can achieve the code size optimization. The next next point where we can achieve the software based power optimization is SRAM power consumption and parallelization. So we can monitor the power consumption of the SRAM, and as I said in previous part, we can disable the certain part of the RAM, and we can pack our data in a such a way that the number of read writes to the SRAM is minimum. Another power optimization which we can do is the SRAM is having its enable chip select and all. So when that particular part of the RAM is not required, we can disable that SRAM, and then we can achieve the power optimization. And another parallelization here refers to the how we are accessing the data from the RAM. So when we are working on a certain set of data and we are processing certain arrays of the data, then we have to exploit our and design our code in a such a way that the data access from the RAM is done in a continuous way, in a burst way, instead of sequential access from the RAM. Actually, I don't have a code snippet over here, but that will mainly depend on how you are doing the coding and how you are structuring your data. So if you are structure your data well, you can let's say two set of data, instead of defining two separate arrays, we can design a structure and we can club these both arrays into that particular structure. And using that, the read and write and access from the SRAM will be more optimized because we are actually accessing the complete data set instead of individual arrays. So through that, we can have a more parallelization in the access, because SRAM is in comparison to the processor, SRAM is a slower device. So if we are individually accessing the RAM, then there will be certain period of time the processor will be waiting to access the data or to receive the data from the RAM. But if we have done a parallelization, we have properly designed our data structure, then in a single instruction or single fetch, we can access the complete data which we want to work on, and we can have a more parallelization, and rest of the time we can put the device into low power state, or once our computation is done, then the processor can be moved to low power state, and that way we can achieve the power optimization. Then next part, the way which we can do the more software power optimization is data transitions and power consumption. So data transitions refers to when we are operating on a data, many times we reset the data, or we clear the cache, or we do some reset work. So we can analyze our application requirement, and we can figure out, okay, do we really need to reset this particular part of the device or this particular part of array, or do we need to reset our structure to a certain value? If this is something which is really not required, then we can avoid this kind of data transitions in our application, and we can reduce the amount of computation required to do that, and we can reduce the power consumption. So that is one more way to reduce the power consumption. One more in another one more way we can we can reduce the power consumption using a software technique is how we are developing our application in a such a way that the data which we use more frequently is defined and structured in a such a way that this data remains in a cache memory of the processor and not into the SRAM or DRAM. So if our data resides in the processor, as everybody knows here from the computer field and the electronics, so if you see the speed of access of the data from the memory, cache provides the fastest access, and then comes the external memories. So if we design our code in a such a way that the data which we are working on more frequently are kept in a cache instead of the SRAM or DDRM, then that particular computation can be done in a shorter period of time, and we can even avoid the SRAM or DDRM from our design as well. So we have to design our code in a such a way that we are optimizing and the utilization of our cache which is available with the processor. And there are compiler based optimizations which are available, through which we can even further improve our code. So as you can see, normally every compiler provides two types of optimization. One is the optimization for size, and second is for optimization for the performance. So both has its own merits and demerits. So if you consider the if we go for compiler optimization for the performance, then it may be the case that we are able to achieve certain execution in a shorter period of time, and we can put our processor into an idle state or in a wait state, and that way we can reduce the power consumption. But this is something we have to do iteratively. We have to try different combination and compiler optimization and come to the level where we can optimally do the required functionality, and say at the same time we are able to reduce the power consumption of the processor and design. One more way of power optimization is utilizing the dedicated hardware which are available in the SoC, as I said previously. So one example for that is again is the trying to make use of a dedicated hardware like a DMA. So instead of doing a CPU based data transfer from one part of the memory to another part, we can make a use of DMA, So through which we can transfer the set of data from one section to another section, while the CPU is free to do another operation which is to be done, or it can be put in an idle state, and once the DMA is over, then it will again wake up the CPU to do the next operation. So similar to DMA, we can make use of other peripherals like DSP. We can make use of other uh, peripherals. So when that particular peripheral is in use, CPU can be in idle, in a wait state or idle state, and we can reduce the power consumption of the system. Another way how we can do the optimization in power is using the co-processors. So previously I touched upon the considering multi-core design, and here again I am considering slightly different way of optimization is using a co-processor. So as you can see right now in the available processors available in the market, normally you will have a main processor like, let's say, considering Cortex M4 or M3, and then you have co-processor like Cortex M0 or something, which is a very small, low functionality, low power, operating at a lower speed and doing the basic functionality. So as you, in our most of the design, so the idle part or the basic part which is required to be done, which is really not a real-time performance requirement, then those kind of tasks or the activities can be transferred to co-processor, while the main processor can be put in idle or a wait state when that particular performance or condition is not required, and that way we can reduce the power consumption of the our overall device. One more level of optimization is how we do the system bus configuration. So normally a system bus, it's like a highway which is used for communication between different peripherals. Just a minute. So depending on the profiling of our application and the requirement of the peripherals which are required in a specific operation, the system bus priority can be set in a such a way that the subsystems or the peripherals which are more in use are given higher priority, while the peripherals which are least used or not at all used are given a lower priority, so that the number of the operations of wait state can be reduced and we can get a better performance. At the same time, we can reduce the wait times and we can reduce the power consumption. So the system bus configuration helps in reducing the power consumption. Then many peripherals which are available have speed grades and bus widths. So we can utilize this feature of the peripheral for further power optimization. So whenever the specific peripheral which is either not in use or which is required to be operated at a lower speed, then we can configure the device on the fly to a specific required operating speed using its frequency and all configuration, and we can reduce the power consumption. And using an ideal or which is ideal size of the burst width. So here burst width refers to there are different type of peripherals which are available. So certain peripherals have a burst width of 4, certain 8 bits, certain have 16, certain have 32 bits. Now let's say, for example, our design only requires 8-bit burst width. We don't need a 32-bit burst width, for example. So let's say if either there is an option to configure the burst width, then we have to optimize the use of burst width, let's say going to 8-bit, or if there are two different set of hardwares which are available, one is having 32-bit burst width, another is having 8-bit, then if our application does not require to go for a 32-bit based design, then we can go to a lower one, 8-bit or 4-bit, and we can reduce the power consumption of the our device. Then one more thing we have to consider is peripheral to core communication. So how we are doing the design of our software. So there are various different techniques for communication between peripheral and the main core, main processor. So one way of communication is polling. So the processor polls the data polls the peripheral for the data. Second option is doing a time-based processing like similarly but in a batch manner. And third is the interrupt-based processing. So if we consider this available techniques, then it's a natural or obvious choice that interrupt-based processing provides the best choice. That the peripheral, once the operation is over, it will invoke or interrupt the processor and to do the further action. And the rest of the time, processor can be put into a wait state or it can do some other operation which is required. So we have to consider the peripheral to core communication and select the right method which meets our requirement, application requirement, and secondly, we can reduce the power consumption of our overall product. One more level of optimization which can be achieved is using algorithmic optimization. So we can design or optimize our algorithm for a specific product in such a way that it is more in a design in such an optimized manner that we can achieve the desired result in a less number of steps. And um, in addition to that, it makes use of efficient use of available hardwares. So as I said previously, so SoC is having DSPs, it is having MAC and all. So our algorithm should be designed in such a way that it makes, when there is a multiplication requirement, then it makes use of MAC unit. When there is a multiple data processing requirement, then it makes use of DSP in an efficient manner. And that way we can design our software in such a way that and optimize our algorithm so that the overall power consumption required for the device is reduced. Then, as I said earlier, we are having compiler level optimization. So there are multiple level of compiler optimization. So we can use these different compiler optimization levels to reduce the power, the code. I will say the optimize our code and reduce the power consumption. Then in the same compiler optimization, we can design a compile our code in such a way that the instructions are packed in such a way that the instead of multiple instruction for a single operation, we can use a single instruction for multiple operations. So that way we can do the optimization of our code in such a way that we can efficiently use the available hardware. We can do the required do the required processing in a shorter period of time, and we can reduce the power consumption of our device. Similarly, one more level of optimization which can be done. This is using how we do the coding for our product. So loop unrolling. So many times there is a requirement to there will be loops in our design where we have to do certain operations. So let's say, for example, we are having two loops. Both loops are we are doing iteration from 0 to 100. So we have one loop doing one operation 0 to 100, second loop doing similar operation 0 to 100. There are two different loops, but we can combine these two loops. So because the both loops are running for 100 iterations, then we can combine these two loops in one loop, and we can club our data in such a way that the number of checks required for that particular operation gets reduced. So instead of two loops, now we have one loop. So instead of increments which were required for each loops, it reduced to only one loop. And further to that, the data on which the loop operates, they are designed in such a way that it will be more efficient to fetch that data from the cache or memory in a burst mode, and we will have one more level of power optimization. So that is what the loop unrolling and is I'm referring to here. And the next level of optimization which we can achieve is using software pipelining. So many of you might be have learned or have a knowledge of the how the hardware pipeline of the processor is. Similar to that, we can do our software code in a such a way that we can have a software pipeline. So in this technique, what we'll do is the sequence of operation is done in a such a way that the processing is done in more efficient manner. So let's say, for example, we are having a sequence of code. Let's say A is equals to B plus C, then second B is equals to C plus D, and likewise. So when the compiler or processor refers to this code, it will try to compute each and every part in a different way. But if we design our code in a such a way that there is no interdependency between the data which we are doing the computing in our system, then if we do the design in a such a way that then the the output of one operation is not dependent on the another operation, then that particular code can be executed in parallel or independently, and that will help in overall execution of the I will say overall execution of the software. So we have to design our code in a such a way that we can do kind of software pipelining and avoiding the interdependency between the code, which will achieve us more concurrency in our execution. Similar to that, eliminating recursions. So when the processor encounters a recursive code, a compiler and a processor encounters a recursive code, it will not be optimized because it will understood that okay, there is a dependency between one part and the another part of the code, and that part will not be optimized. So in our design or in a software, if we figure out that okay, we do not need this kind of recursive nature, we can avoid that part and we can have an optimization of the code. One more level of optimization which we can achieve is we have to figure out okay, how much accuracy, mathematical accuracy or the design accuracy we want in our design. So let's say for example A to D converter. So there can be an 8-bit A to D converter, 16-bit or more. But let's say if our design only requires 8-bit A to D converter conversion, it meets our requirement, then we have to consider the minimum accuracy level which is required, so that using that the number of computations which are required, data we will have to handle, and all the related things can be reduced, and all the mathematical and computing power which is required to process that much data, highly accurate data, which is really not required, then by reducing the accuracy we can have a better performance, and due to better performance we can have a better power optimization. And then one more level of optimization how we can achieve is by using the low power code sequences and data patterns. So our data we design in a such a way that all the data which is to be moved or to be processed on are in a design in a certain fashion that we can achieve more parallelism, as I said in my previous memory related optimizations, so that the data is designed in a such a way that the data access, copy, read write is done in a burst mode. So when it is in burst mode, it is more optimized because it is quick and can be done in a shorter period of time. So by using a proper data pattern, we can reduce the processing and the power optimization. We can achieve the power optimization. So thank you. So do we have any questions or anything? I think I have covered most of the part of the optimization. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or would like to discuss about power optimization?
Yes, participant mic is enabled for you. You can ask the queries directly to the expert.
Mona, on ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು.
Hello, sir. By mistake, I logged out from the session, sir. This is Mohana Tadi. From my phone, I logged out. I am just talking through my friend's phone. So if okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I've joined.
Any other participant having any query, you can ask the query by unmuting your mic. Sir, there was a question in chat section.
Yeah.
The question was, which approach is more efficient and feasible, hardware optimization or software optimization, considering the fact that software optimization is also somehow somewhere related with hardware?
Yeah. So in my opinion, actually it all depends on the what is the level of optimization we want to achieve. But definitely as we go, as I covered in my presentation, so architecture is the one of the core part of our design. So based on our architecture, we have to select the right hardware, and then comes the software optimization. So hardware for optimization is the higher priority, and then comes the software optimization.
Yes, any other participants, if you are having any query?
Dhavalji, this is Prashant here. I just wanted to understand. So sometimes when we are designing the hardware, uh, the the MCU manufacturers claim that this is a power consumption when the device is in sleep mode. But a lot of time we have seen that on hardware, when we design the hardware, we are not able to. So we are close to it, but we are not able to reach that specification. So are there any techniques or things which you should look for when doing this kind of hardware design?
Yes, so in case of hardware design, as I said, so sorry.
Sir, you can continue, sir. I think it was by mistake. Sir, you can continue.
Okay. Yeah, so for hardware related power consumption, as you said that okay, we how to meet the specifications which are provided. So as I said, we have to look into the overall data sheet of the hardware which is you are considering, or the processor you are considering. You have to turn off the peripherals which are not really required, and look into your design, how you are doing the connections of your IC with the other peripherals, and you have to use the power regulation, the right enable disabling of the peripherals, right enable and disabling of the on. When I'm referring to peripheral, it is both on chip and off chip peripherals, and also the putting the our peripherals in a, let's say it is GPI or whatever, in a right state, and then you can figure out the power consumption. But normally when you, if you refer the specifications, then they are providing the states. So state of the peripherals, in which power state the device is, and once you reach to that state, then mostly you should be able to reach to the power specification which is provided by the manufacturer.
Okay, sir. One more question in chat section.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, with with scaling power reduction occurs, what about leakage currents? With scaling power reduction occurs, what
So
about leakage currents?
yeah, so leakage current is, I will say, basically not at all in our control in not in our control. So leakage current will anyway it will flow. So basically, as I said in my presentation, one there is a fix, that is static power consumption, and then there is a dynamic power consumption. So more normally the static power consumption is mainly related to these leakage currents. So these power we can hardly reduce, it is going to be consumed. So we can hardly do much about these leakage currents. The only way is to use the gating and frequency gating schemes. So we can turn off that particular part of the soft hardware, and we can reduce the power consumption. That is what we can achieve. Or we can put our device into the sleep state. So these are the optimizations available, but we can not do much about these leakage currents.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any other queries you can write in a chat box? Sir, I think there is no any queries.
Okay.
So, yes, Bhargav sir, shall we move towards the valedictory function?
Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you, Professor Dhaval Shah, for sharing this valuable information on optimization of power for wearable devices. Dear participants, we are going to conduct a small valedictory session before we conclude this FDP, and we will be sending you the link of the quiz after this valedictory session, just after the valedictory session of 20 to 25 minutes. So I think you all have enjoyed this 5 days FDP, and it is very, very important for us to understand the feedback through this valedictory session, and we will be also communicating to the higher authority about the feedback. Before I formally announce this valedictory session formally, I would like to make a couple of announcements. We will be sharing this compulsory mandatory quiz link just after the valedictory session, as well as we will be also informing to all the participants that you need to complete this feedback on the portal. You need to, all the participants needs to fill the feedback on the portal. Once you fill the feedback, and based on your attendance record, based on the marks that you are going to score in the quiz as well as in the assignment that you have submitted, your certificate will be issued by the portal itself, right? So we have already posted this all information in our brochure, as well as we are going to put this information in our WhatsApp group, as well as I am repeatedly informing all the participants about the different methods of formalities that mandatorily all the participants needs to be done before completing the valuable input. So today we are about to finish this FDP, that is Faculty Development Program, on this wearable devices and its fundamental. So I now request Professor Ghanshyam sir to formally begin this Faculty Development Program valedictory session. We have with us Engineer Dhaval Shah, as well as we have with us Dr. Kalpesh Bhalodi. So I request Professor Ghanshyam to formally begin with this valedictory session.
Thank you very much, sir. I, Professor Ghanshyam Rathod, welcome you all on the occasion of valedictory function of the 5 days faculty development program on wearable devices and its fundamentals. I hope all of you have enjoyed this 5 days full knowledge session, like knowledge sharing session and starting with the addressing about the 5 days program and how we have come up with the idea and all. So I would like to invite Dr. Bhargav Gorodia sir, coordinator of this faculty development program, to share his view and related to this faculty development program. Yes, welcome Bhargav sir.
Devi now.
Thank you, Professor Ghanshyam. So it was really overwhelming participation from all parts of the India. At the outset, I would like to convey that we have received as good as maximum 200 participation of India from southern region of the India. And out of 200 participants, all 200 participants have confirmed their participation, but somehow the total number of participants, those who are attending this FDP regular basis, is around 130 to 135. So I'm happy that the purpose of AICT and particularly Atal Academy purpose to educate and train the faculty members in the emerging trends of the technology. So one of the prominent emerging trend is wearable devices, and therefore we have been working on these wearable devices. We have been working on the various smart city solutions. So I'm really thankful to AICT Atal for recognizing our proposal of this conducting FDP, as well as I'm also thankful to our parent management, Charutar Vidyamandal, and our principal of BVM Engineering College, that is Dr. Indrajit Patel sir, and my team of Electronics and Communication Engineering Department for constantly supporting, because to conduct this kind of FDP is never an easy task, and it requires a preparation of almost 2.5 months in advance. So I'm happy that we were in position to interact with the various industry expert for conduction of this FDP, and I'm also very much thankful to all the participants, those who are actively involved in this FDP, for interacting with the various experts. At the outset, I'm happy that most of the experts have delivered their talk on the latest trend of wearable devices, right from the fundamental aspect to the latest trend that we have covered. And almost all the sessions were very energetic and enthusiastically participants have interacted with the expert. Particularly, we have inculcated the expert talk from the newcomers, because see, being a faculty, we should be always having approach of lifelong learning, because whatever we have learned before a decade or before 5 years, that may not be the applicable in current scenario. And therefore the session of the PPE kit wearable and its devices from Nihal Singh was really appreciable, and being a second year student of engineering, whatever he has shared was really remarkable. Similarly, all the sessions like today's morning session that we have included from Engineer Prashant Verma, that was also a really remarkable session. So before we come to the formal ending of this session, I would like to thank all the participants. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to our parent management as well as AICT Atal. So I now would like to receive some input from the participants about this conduction of this FDP, as well as about this selection of the topic as well as expert. Once again, I would be discussing and sharing that being a faculty of any organization, I have been a little more harsh on providing some of the repeated requests which we have been receiving about attendance. So it is really, I feel sorry for the faculty members, those who are simply attending for the certificate, but still there are participants, those who are interested in updating their knowledge and information, and that is the primary purpose of this FDP. So I now request Professor Ghanshyam sir to do the proceeding.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our participants to give their feedback. I would like to invite Mr. Rathis Ratish sir, please share your feedback regarding faculty development program, sir. You can unmute your mic. Mr. Ratish.
Yes, sir. Am I
Yes,
audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, all. First of all, I would like to thank our dear coordinators and the organizing college, BVM Engineering College, for arranging such a wonderful FTP. Previously, I was attending so many FTPs in the past years, but from that, I have to say that this is an extremely different one, because now we are all having some new devices like smart Google Glass and smart ear chips, and everything is there. But apart from that, now I got so many things related to the wearable devices. But one thing I have to say is that now we are developing artificial intelligence, machine learning, and new chips, electronics, everything is there. But my opinion is we have to do something related to our health. It's my dream to develop a device for that. So this FDP surely help me to develop such wearable devices. Means I am planning to develop a device which helps to give personal training to the public. Means now we are facing health issues related to corona issues and many other things. Suppose if you want to pay for a personal trainer, we have to pay a huge amount for them. But if I am developing a new device for this, it will be helpful to the whole world, I think. So apart from everything, I can say without any doubt that this FDP will help me to develop such a wonderful device in the near future. I am planning to develop within the 1 year itself. So I got so many eminent personalities here. So I would like to thank each and everyone in this program, especially to my coordinators and the organizing team. That is BVM Engineering College, EC Department. Thank you all. Thank you all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ratish sir, for your valuable feedback, and it will always consider all the inputs given by you. Now I would like to invite
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Vijay Lakshmi for share her experience. Yes,
Okay.
Vijay Lakshmi ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you. A very good afternoon to all. I feel honored to say a few words about AICTE Atal FTP, conducted by Electronics and Communication Department of Birla Vishwakarma Mahavidyalaya Engineering College. Everything that begins well ends well. It started with live streaming of grand inauguration ceremony of 3 FTPs on YouTube, which was awesome. FTP on wearable devices and its fundamentals was well planned, well organized, and conducted by coordinator Dr. Bhargav Goradia sir, Shri Ghansham sir, and his team successfully. A good leader initiates the work, so was done by Dr. Bhargav sir by giving introduction to wearable devices. One of the biggest challenges, that is power management, and other challenges also were discussed by Dr. Anand Bhaskar and Shri Nilesh sir. Communication and connectivity of these devices was well explained by Jignesh Bhatt sir. Trends in medical monitoring devices was highly interactive active session by Shri G.B. Rathod sir. Innovation in PPE kit by Mr. Nihal and different technologies in smart clothing by Mr. Prashant Verma were interesting sessions. In yoga session, I realized yoga is not just an exercise, but it is a science of mind and bliss is the taste of life. Lot of learning happened during this FTP. Lot of valuable information was packed in each session. All the doubts and queries of participants were cleared. In every session, coordinator posed a query to expert, which was very much helpful. Minute things were also taken care during FTP, whether it may be maintaining time or discipline in the session. Participants were guided properly about the upcoming event in the session. Assignment given inspired us to think on new ideas. I enjoyed being a part of this FTP. I thank Atal, BVM Engineering College, Coordinator Dr. Bhargav Sir, Sri Ghansham Sir, for enriching all of us with their knowledge. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my views. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, for giving detailed feedback about 5 days faculty development program. Thank you very much. We'll love to hear from you, ma'am. Now, I would like to invite our another participant, Priya Vadgama ma'am, to give her valuable feedback. Priya ma'am, please.
Yeah, hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, so I can't switch on my camera because it's not working. But anyway, I would like to give my feedback. I am very happy to be having been a part of this FDP, 5 days all through the FDP. Actually, I am from basically from computer IT background. So when I saw this FDP, but I'm working, for my PhD, I have started working on Internet of Things. So when I searched using the keyword on the Atal portal, and I found out about this FDP, which was being conducted by BVM Engineering College. So I was a bit apprehensive at the start because it is organized by the EC department, and so I thought that there might have be very much technical jargon regarding wearable devices, currents, and stuff like that. But I have been proven wrong, and I am very happy to say that kudos to the team. All the sessions were very nicely organized, very understandable to even a beginner, a novice person who might not be having much knowledge into the EC domain. All sessions were great, and as Dipendra Manocha sir in the afternoon said about inclusivity, the team has actually taken into account the inclusivity concept and has included all facets of wearable devices as well as about physical mental well-being, and also inspiring session on PPE kits by Mr. Nihal Singh. So I heartily congratulate all the organizers, the organizing committee, that they have done a fabulous job of organizing the material in such a way that it can be received by all participants alike. So all the sessions were really enjoyable. The PPE kit session, or the firmware design session, or the session having the information about yoga for health of body and mind, the power optimization session which was conducted right now. So all of these sessions touched upon various parts of the wearable devices, and help us to understand a part of the whole thing, which is a part of the whole application, like cyber physical systems, or say IoT. All of this, a part of this is a wearable device, and we were able to understand it very well. So thank you, the organizers of BVM Engineering College EC department, as well as the management of Birla Vishwakarma Mahavidyalay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Priya ma'am, for your wonderful words. and we'll always be connected with you regarding our new and upcoming events. Now, I would like to invite our another participant, Mr. Pratap Makwana, to share his view regarding our faculty development program. Pratap, sir.
Yeah, it was a great experience from you research gurus and as well as the industry experts. Majority things has been said, but very quickly during the starting of the sessions, the introduction by Principal Dr. Ayan Patel and the introduction by Mr. Kevin Seth, sir. So I was looking for that invention, innovation, and the productionization. That three words I would like to map from these sessions. And frankly speaking, I am not disappointed at all, and I am very much delighted from all these sessions, which has touched upon all these three angles, right? Like from starting from invention, innovations, as well as the product, the making of the product. I would not go into each of the session detail, but I would very uniformly like to say the session started from the introduction of the devices, sensors, signal processing, communication protocol, machine learning, as well as the application toward the healthcare and other applications also. So how to map all these innovations in terms of the production, the product, which has been taken care very well defined by the student who have shown us that how the one simple product can be bulk productionized easily and can be patented. So that has given us a lot of thought. And so we will be, after this FDP, one thought always will be there, that research aspirants will be always available with this FDP, and we should be acknowledged. And I would like to congratulate Dr. Bhargav Gorodia and Dr. Ghanshyam Rathod and whole BVM CVM fraternity for this wonderful FDP program. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your appreciation and kind words. We'll always be in touch with you for upcoming events. And now I would like to invite Mr. Mohit Chaudhary to share his views and feedback regarding our faculty development program. Yes, Mohit, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, you are audible.
I am Mohit Chaudhary from Madhu Vachaspati Institute of Engineering and Technology, Prayagraj. First of all, I would like to thank AICTE Atal Academy for organizing these FDPs, because these FDPs are actually providing these teaching fraternity and a kind of profession which is a creator of all other profession. And if we teachers our knowledge is obsolete, then we are of no use to the society. So we need to upgrade ourselves, and this is a very good initiation on the part of Atal Academy. So I would like to thank Atal Academy and the Indian government or the Ministry of Education for this initiative. Secondly, I would like to thank the team of BVM Engineering College for successfully organizing this event. It involves a number of steps, you have to decide which person to involve, which expert to involve, and they have so well organized. This plan was so well organized, and these industry experts were there in this session, and they were sharing their views with all the participants, clearing their doubt. And I was actually very much impressed with one of the expert like Nihal Singh, right? As Bhargav sir said, he's just a student, right? And if the teachers could have that kind of you can say enthusiasm, then I don't know what our society would look in the appear to be in the next coming years. So I really enjoyed it a lot. And this session, all these session, I cannot say that this session number 1 was good or session number 2 were good or the day 1 session was good. All the sessions were so enthusiastic, filled with fun and thrill that I really loved them. Like they were sharing codes, they were sharing the demonstration of the product. I really enjoyed it a lot. And as these smart devices or wearable devices are the, you can take the next future. It means we will be surrounded by all these smart devices. So it's a kind of good initiation on the part of the coordinators. So I have to thank Bharat sir for thinking about FDP and planning it well, coordinating it with the industry experts and bringing this kind of FDP for all of us so that we can benefit from it. I am basically from the background, and but still I when I saw that FDP on the Atal Academy, I just went for it. I have to do it, and I tried my best. Though I am coming to my institute, and I'm so busy taking classes, conducting classes, but still I tried to find time to just attend all these sessions. I tried my best, and what I loved the most of the assignment submission, like. This was really good to collect what the participant feel about these wearable devices and what are their views on this. So I just love that concept of assignment and seeking opinion from the participant. And the center of attraction was the live demonstration and the product that your experts actually displayed and demonstrated, and their, and they also clear the doubt of the participant. So in future, if there is any kind of FDP from your institute, I would just love to attend it. Thank you once again. Thank you for organizing this FDP and letting me in this FDP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohit sir. It is really nice to hear from you. You almost said whatever you feel about this faculty development program. So thank you once again for giving your valuable feedback. Now I would like to invite Dr. Bhargav sir. He would like to introduce one of our guests. Yes, Bhargav sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Gancham, and all the participants. Still, if any participants who would like to share anything before I introduce our chief guest of today's session, or rather valedictory ceremony, if anyone is interested, please raise your hand so we can hear one more participant if they wish to share anything. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, Selva Kumar, please, sir.
Dr. Selva Kumar, I belong to fashion technology in VIT Chennai. I think that I really interested on this developing these wearable clothings. So by seeing that the list of Atal programs, I really wonders about this separate FDPs conducted by you and your team, sir. It is really that welcoming one, and I learned a lot because even though that I'm not in that circuit branch, basically from that textile technologist actually, I know all the things about that fibers, fabrics, and everything. But the session covers entire thing. So even I really get inspired with some of the experts. They're talking about the textiles and related uh, smart clothings, the possible smart clothings. That is really welcoming, sir. Actually, that even my previous, I think the faculty given the feedback about that. Not only with that single resource person, I think that each and every resource person, I think they give the enthusiasm to us, and they make us to think and go for some products because of each one of them having a very good experience and think about the societal needs, and they come up with the ideas and come up with the products by spending their a span of time in the research. That's what we hope so. We hope so that we have to come up with the product. Maybe another 1 or 2 years with for the affordable to the society, which will be really helpful to that the needy or the social what is the socially needed applications. I really that wholeheartedly on behalf of VIT and my own behalf, I record my sincere thanks to entire team and the arrangements, everything, the platform, everything. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Selva Kumar. We have one more participant, Suganya Prabhu. You can please unmute yourself and you can have your words.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. Myself, Suganya from SNS College of Engineering, Tamil Nadu. The session was well organized, sir. Hats off to you. Really, the topic chosen was very interesting to us. It is related to my research area as well. Got more information related to this wearable devices. Thanks to the experts for giving such an opportunity for us, and also thanks to the organizers for the well organized session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Last, I would say last, we have Priyalata ji. Please unmute yourself and give your feedback. Yeah, please.
So good afternoon to everyone, and thanks a lot for giving this opportunity. And I'm basically from textile department, and I was interested to know about wearable technology, and I'm planning to do my research in this line. And this FDP is really an eye opener and gives so many information and so many ideas to pursue in this line. And thanks a lot for organizing such a wonderful FDP and giving us opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you so much, Priyalata ji. Moving towards the end of this FDP, we have with us Dr. Kalpesh Balodi, who is the chief guest of this valedictory ceremony. Dr. Kalpesh Balodi is a technical manager at ABB Global. Presently, he is situated at Germany. He is a seasoned professional with career-long record of electrical engineering, product development, and management success for leading organizations like primarily with ABB. He is having more than 25 years of experience and having proven work ethic to lead the challenging engineering projects in the areas of power electronics, power system, and controls. He is known for delivering exceptional work in the challenging environment, out-of-the-box thinker who champions innovative solutions to integrate best practices. Proven track record of developing, testing, validating, and implementing complex electrical solutions, recognizing for creative thinking with the capacity to collaborate with the diverse individual while building the productive professional relationship. So I wish that whatever core competencies of our today's expert is limited, not only limited to electrical engineering, but he is also having vast experience of innovative concept testing and validation, electric vehicles, electric drives, smart charging station, as well as smart grid control, energy management, pattern analysis, and lot many things. So I request Dr. Kalpesh Balodi to share his views and wisdom on the August gathering of this faculty development program. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, am I audible for everyone?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Bhargav. I am privileged to have this address session here. So first of all, I can say about myself, I am working right now at Corporate Research Center in ABB. And before this, I was in various roles for research and development, maybe with ABB for almost more than 12 years. And then before that, I was doing that with global R&D center at Crompton and Greaves, and there before I was doing the research into the Indian Institute of Technology in Roorkee. Different roles. My work was spanned in different areas, but that the topic for your today's FTP that's much more touching. Basically, I can correlate. I am a power electronics engineer. I have worked for mainly for high power electronics for the grid application, and there it's like a smart grid with the focus of DC grid was my main application area. But what I am right now focusing with the change of center of gravity, now industries are changing with the new technologies, a new demand, and then now my focus is on maybe the electric vehicle charging, then the big data analytics using having the tracking data of electric vehicles, then machine learning, and machine learning maybe it's like using various tools like automatic machine learning, how to use it for control, specifically model predictive control, and then looking into how the control can help at the lower level of the data. The question is like, if we have a lot of connectivity, and if you would like to prioritize that, what may happen? If I give example of variables, what advantage that we have recently in the corona time is like we have a lot of plants, the people were not allowed to enter, and then with the variables and the explainable AI and machine learning, it was possible that with the variable glass, maybe the most critical plants in the Europe that has been handled with let's say, with the smallest level of operator can enter into the plant, and even that has been given different priorities, and control has been handled for very few plant on demonstration purpose. In order to say that these are the technologies now under exploration, and soon that may come into the reality. On addition, maybe I can say that, let's say, the traceability, then the explainable part of the data for the big data analysis, that are also a key area that are more emerging. Yeah, that's, I think, a sort with the relevant to your topics, and I think I'm very happy and delighted that this is the nice topic, and you are organizing and discussing a lot on this one, and bringing up the new trends and innovation with the coming time. And I'm very happy again that I have some of the participants here in this FTP. They are working along with me sometime back in India. Thanks. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Ghanshyam sir, you can proceed for the other part. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Kalpesh sir, for your nice words and regarding the technology going on. And you also said that we have to update with the technology. Now, I would like to invite Professor Ronak Vasi sir for the vote of thanks. Ronak sir, please. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, very good afternoon to all. Our most valued guest, Engineer Dhaval Shah sir, Director of OmniSense, and Dr. Kalpesh Balodi, Scientist at ABB Global Germany. Dr. Bhargav Godia sir, Head of the Department and Coordinator of this event. My co-coordinator, Professor Ghanshyam Rathod sir, and our dear participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion on behalf of the entire team as the EC Department BVM and Atal FDP. I would like to heartily thank to Atal AICT scheme, our college BVM, and Parent Institute, CVM, for always encouraging us to arrange such kind of programs to enhance the faculty knowledge. I also thank our dynamic principal, Dr. Indrajit Patel, sir, for his great support, leadership, and encouragement. His dedication inspires us always. I thank him for sowing the seeds of leadership and work ethics into young minds. I have great honor and privilege to express my heartfelt thanks to HOD, EC Department Bhargav Goradia, sir, constant motivation and support, event coordinator, Professor Ghanshyam Rathod, sir, and definitely our student support team, Engineer Neil and Engineer Dhruv. I thank Engineer Dhaval Shah, sir, and Dr. Kalpesh Balodi, sir, for gracing the occasion with their august presence. A very heartily vote of thanks to all eminent speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions. Lastly, I thank all for their direct or indirect involvement to make this event successful. Thank you all.